You're not just telling us what we want to hear.
No, sir, no way.
Because we just want to hear the truth.
Well, then I guess I am telling you what you want to hear.
Boy, didn't we just tell you not to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then.
Welcome to the Screen Bites podcast, the official podcast at geekbench.com. I'm Jeremy Sollie, and with me are...
Justin Powell.
Jake Wilbanks.
Today on our first episode, we'll be talking about our top 10 films of 2012, and in between, we'll be having an interview with AJ Meadows, the director of the new horror film, The Slender Man. So let's go ahead and start things off. Justin, you want to give us your number 10 pick?
Yes. It took me a while to finally break it down because I had seen a lot of movies this year. But with number 10, I decided to go with Silver Linings Playbook. I think it's a film that does a lot with something that kind of a touchy subject. You know, your mental health problems are a hot topic right now. But it's a film that's got a lot of heart and isn't making fun of these people, and it really kind of offers something, you know, to be enjoyed. Jeremy or Jake, do you see this film?
I haven't been able to see it. Have you, Jake?
Unfortunately not. No, I've not had a chance to, they've not been showing it here, so no.
Yeah, it's a film, there's a slight bias in there as I am a Philadelphia-born guy, but it's a film that I really, really like, and Jennifer Lawrence gives an amazing performance. You won't be surprised if you hear her name mentioned on Thursday when they do the Oscar nominations. And Bradley Cooper does maybe the strongest work of his career as this guy who's kind of working back from a serious problem and just is getting a lot of support from people around them, even if the people around them may have just as many problems as him. And I just think it's a film that a lot of people can see and enjoy. It's dark. There's a lot of jokes at the expense of both Bradley and Jennifer Lawrence's character's conditions, but they're not mean-spirited. It's just kind of making mention that these are problems people have in the world, but you can be happy and you can be functional with these. So that's my number 10 film, Silver Linings Playbook.
Now, since this is David O. Russell, and this looks like a fairly conventional movie, does he elevate that? Like, can you tell that it's David O. Russell making it, or does it look like just some regular, romantic comedy?
You can tell it's David O. Russell because the film has if you think all the way back to even Three Kings, it has kind of a unique sense of humor in kind of the darkest moments of the film, and I think that's one of the places where this film is strongest and elevated above this kind of your standard comedy.
Okay. So, Jake, you want to give us your number 10?
Yeah, sure. My number 10 for the year was Safety Not Guaranteed, starring Mark Duplass and Aubrey Plaza, I believe. Really unique movie. I'm not going to spoil anything on here, obviously, but it's a more independent movie. It got a very small release, but it quickly gathered a lot of acclaim. But the performances are what sells it. It's one of those movies where at the very end, it completely changes the way you've seen the entire movie before it. Mark Duplass gives incredible performance. Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Recreation does really solid work here. But it's very funny, very charming. I really enjoyed it.
My number 10 is a film that I just saw the day before I published my top 10 list, and that was Girl Walk All Day. Now, I know you've seen this, Justin, right?
Yes, a bunch of people have been recommending it, and I, too, just recently caught it days before my list is going out, and it's one of my top 20 films of the year. I think it's really good stuff. Oh, yeah,
it's great. Have you seen it yet, Jake?
No, I'd actually not even heard of it until I saw it on your top 10 list.
Girl Walk All Day, I hadn't heard. I saw David Ehrlich. He was a writer, and right. I saw him talking about it on Twitter. There's a band, Girl Walk, who I hadn't heard of either, and their album All Day, the entire film is strung together basically in chapters. Each chapter is a song from the album, and it follows a girl as she leaves her dance class in New York and just dances through the city, and there's no real story to it. It's just basically, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I've never seen this kind of thing before. It's thrown around a lot, and it's not.
Yeah.
It isn't really even the kind of indie art house movie you would think it would be from that kind of description. It's so easily accessible because, it makes you really happy. That could be the poster statement for this movie. It just makes you really happy while you're watching it.
A movie reminds me a lot of is Wim Wenders had a film called Pina last year, which basically was a series of dance numbers inspired by this German artist dancer named Pina, and but this one is just so more lively and exuberant, and it's just about having fun and enjoying yourself and being creative. I think it's really something that a lot of people are missing out on because they're not really big dance people. But this is something that I think it should be really enjoyed. And I was familiar with Girl Talk because the guy from Girl Talk is from Pittsburgh, and he was coming up while I was at the college at the University of Pittsburgh. But this is really kind of something that has elevated what his music is, kind of that mashup style music, to something that's more mainstream that can inspire something like this.
And that's what I was worried. I didn't know he was a mashup artist, so my main concern going in was, well, what if I don't like his songs? What if I don't like the music? But his mashups are very popular, very, mainstream songs. So, I mean, if your main turnoff was, well, what if I don't like the music? I mean, you're going to like the music. It's,
Yeah.
So,
really.
You can watch Girl Walk All Day in its entirety for free at its website, girlwalkallday.com. So, Justin, what's your number 9 pick?
My number 9 pick is Drew Goddard's Cabin in the Woods. This movie is just so much fun, and it's so creative, and I just think, it won't be mentioned on Thursday, but I feel like this movie should be nominated for one of the best original screenplays because it's just so creative, and it's such a brilliant deconstruction of the horror genre, and it's really something that any modest novice horror fan or expert horror fan can enjoy because it's funny, but there's a lot there. I know this is on Jeremy's list sometime too. So you want to talk about this now, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll get into it maybe a little bit more later. But my main thing was, this was filmed in, 09 or 010? It's been a while, and there was a while when it was in a turnaround where we weren't sure whether or not it was going to be released. So I actually read the script because I was like, well, if I'm never going to see this movie, I want to hear how crazy this movie is supposed to be. And I'm not going to spoil it, but once you get to that third act, just reading what happens there, it really made me. That was one of my most anticipated movies this year, just to see how they would be able to pull off what they pull off. And Drew Goddard, for a first-time director, completely pulls off the third act. Because that's something that could derail the movie and send it into something that could ruin a movie, and he completely pulls it off.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great year for Josh Whedon, who helped write the script. There's a lot of that great Whedon touch there that a lot of people from Buffy will remember, and it's just a film that, it's smarter than it should be, and it's just good times.
All right, Jake, what's your number 9?
My number 9 for the year was Argo, Ben Affleck's, I think it may have been his third film that he directed. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it's his third.
Okay, it's his third. But yeah, Argo really, really, really surprised me. I mean, I had seen The Town. I've still not seen Gone Baby Gone, but I love The Town. Incredibly tense. And then Argo, he steps it up one more notch. He really plays with a huge cast that's got so many talents at their disposal. Bryan Cranston, all these different people. And it's also a really entertaining movie. A movie that's surprisingly funny in the midst of this really tense hostage crisis that the movie's sort of centered around. And it pulls off the tension incredibly well. It pulls off the humor really well. Everybody's just firing on all gears, and it's really great work from him.
My number 9 is Skyfall, which is a movie I'm sure everyone has seen. And, I love Casino. I've never been a big Bond fan. I haven't even seen most of the back catalog of the films. But I saw Casino Royale and loved it. I saw Quantum of Solace and hated it. But then whenever I saw that, Sam Mendes would be making Skyfall and Roger Deakins would be doing the cinematography and Ralph Fiennes and Javier Bardem and all these people would be joining the cast, I was like, this has to be a great movie. And thankfully it was, because so many blockbusters this year were either, merely good or just massive disappointments. And for Skyfall to come and just be as great or even greater than it looked is fantastic. I think I wrote about this in my top 10 more, but so much of the movie is just like the beginning. The beginning, it just gives you those two, it gives you just the start of the James Bond theme as he walks out of the hallway. And it's just such a clever, funny little, you're in a Bond movie now, we're going to have fun. And then right after that, you get this fantastic chase scene that just goes on. And for the rest of the movie, I don't know that I've enjoyed a movie more this year than Skyfall. It has fantastic performances. It looks amazing. There are some fights and there's some action scenes in this movie that there's nothing particularly amazing about them, but they work so well because of how they're shot. And I think this is going to go down as one of the best-looking movies of the past few years.
Yeah, I'll keep the ball rolling on this because that's actually my number 8 film. And it's just a film, Mendes at first didn't seem like a great idea, but then when you think back to a film like Road to Perdition, he can do action. And this is just a very adult, beautiful film about kind of reconciling with your past while at the same time moving towards the future. And as you said, Roger Deakins' cinematography is breathtaking and maybe the best we've seen this year. And it's just a smart film about, what it is to be this guy. He's getting older, but he's going to have to, the bad guys are not. They just keep coming and reconciling with the past. Jake, let's hear from you, because as I am the only one who knows everyone's list, this is the only film that's on all 3 of our lists. So, Jake, what do you think? Just a little bit, because I know it comes up later up in yours.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, Skyfall was one of the few movies this year where I saw it and I thought, this is perfect. This is, every single moving part in this movie is extraordinary. Javier Bardem, like Jeremy mentioned, the cinematography, the action sequences, it's all just brilliantly put together and it comes out beautifully. Loved it. And
what is your number 8?
My number 8, kind of a controversial choice, I guess, was This Is 40. Judd Apatow's 4th movie that he's directed. He's wrote countless movies, but this was his most recent directing gig. But I just really love the honesty that this movie puts forth. It does get a little bit repetitive in the third act, just a little bit, as most Judd Apatow movies do sort of tend to lean that way. It is a little bit long, but just the time that we get to spend with these characters and seeing them argue with each other and just knowing, Apatow's relationship with Leslie Mann, the actress in his life. And, seeing so much of Judd Apatow's own life being mirrored in these arguments and in these conflicts, it just, I don't know, it's refreshingly honest to me. And also, the cast that he gets, this supporting cast. Unfortunately, Seth Rogen wasn't able to appear, but Jason Segel, Chris O'Dowd, Martin Freeman, just so many really, really funny people getting to play around with each other. I loved it.
I saw This Is 42. I liked about the first hour and a half-ish a lot. It was getting some mixed buzz whenever I went into it, so for the first hour and a half, I was like, I'm liking this a lot more than I expected. And then, like you said, near the end, it just started to get a little repetitive because, there's 3 scenes near the end where it's basically a back-to-back argument. There's 2 that happen at a party where one happens outside, and then you go into the kitchen and it happens again. And I think there's nothing particularly wrong with the scenes themselves, and I feel that if maybe they were cut a little bit shorter, I think the main problem with This Is 40 is the editing. because I feel like, that for me, it was just, these are good in of themselves, but back to back, it just starts to get a little repetitive. And one of my big complaints was, and I feel this isn't really a problem with the movie per se, this might just be me a little bit, but the way the conflict is kind of resolved is almost the exact same way it happens in This Is 40, where a character gets into a bike accident. And, that's not really a criticism, per se, but just for me, that kind of felt like a little bit of laziness on Judd Apatow's part, because he's had 2 movies now where there's a conflict, and it's sort of resolved, and he gets the 2 people who are kind of mad at each other to bond over one of them getting into a bike accident. So like I said, that's kind of nitpicking a little bit, but I feel that there's enough in This Is 40 to say it's a good movie, but I feel that maybe if there would have been a little bit more of it cut, then it could have been all around a great movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say, I haven't seen the film, but I want to ask both of y'all, since you've seen it, do you think Apatow is going too much to the well and putting his family in there and just having them be kind of cute? Or is this something that both of you feel like this is one of the stronger parts of this film?
I feel that actually is one of the stronger parts of the film. Most of my problems lie with the Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann character. His daughters, actually, he starts to do more with his daughters here, and he actually has them both go through problems more. So that was one of the parts that impressed me more. I don't know about you, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of dips into that well in Funny People, not in the 40-Year-Old Virgin, I don't remember, but yeah, in This Is 40, he does them, or he uses them in a really interesting way, actually making them characters that sort of play into the story. Yeah, I think it's one of his strongest assets in his movies, because, I mean, that adds to that honesty, that kind of rawness to everything that's going on.
For me, though, I like what he's doing now, and I think that for his next movie, he either needs to shorten it, or he needs to just go back to flat-out comedy, because I would actually kind of like to see him, just for maybe one movie, return to the more crass style of comedy, because even though there's a lot of those now, no one does that kind of genre as good as he does.
No.
But my number 8 is The Raid Redemption. Has everyone here seen that?
Yes.
I have, yes.
Okay, so you all know how just amazing this movie is. There's not much of a story, and for that to appear in the top 10 over, 2 other films, you have to wonder, well, what's so special about it? I mean, this has some of the best fight scenes, I'd say, in film history, or at least for a very long time. It's like a lot like Die Hard, where it starts off kind of slow, it builds you up, it introduces you to what little characters there are, and then right at about the 20-30 minute mark, it is straight fighting for the end of the movie, and each one is so well put together. It's never repetitive. You could wonder, how can I watch an hour of people fighting and it not get old, and it does not get old.
It's really remarkable. That was my impression when I saw it a couple months ago, was that it was just stellar fight choreography. Stellar.
Yeah, I mean, this is a film that is so innovative and interesting, but it's so simple. I mean, it's a film that just missed out on my top 25 because I think the story was a bit lacking, but this is a film that's endlessly watchable. As you kind of marvel at how far ahead they seem to be in with kind of action choreography and just composing interesting fight scenes, whereas we're just kind of used to the 2 or 3 guys just standing around and hitting each other. It's something, I mean, this is some great stuff. It really is. And I know they're just greenlit this sequel that's going to take place a few hours afterward. We'll see if it's able to hold up over the 2 or 3 films that they originally planned. But yeah, the Raid Redemption is a great choice.
I will be interested to see if that sequel, if they keep the same type of film where it's mainly fighting, or if they'll go like Die Hard and have each one kind of move away from what the first movie is. I'm worried that might happen, but I have enough faith in the director that just completely destroyed this movie in a fantastic way that he'll keep it more grounded for the sequel, but we'll have to see. So what is your number 7, Justin?
My number 7 is Tom Tinkler and the Wachowskis' Cloud Atlas. This is grand, ambitious filmmaking that's going to turn a lot of people off. I mean, I noted that in my review for the site, that, there's a lot going on here, and you have to be willing to roll with it. And I just think this film is beautiful and is so enthralling over the 6 stories that, I was all in when I saw it. I saw it with a packed crowd at the Philadelphia Film Festival, and everyone seemed to be really into it. Have Jeremy or Jake, have either of you seen this?
Have you seen this, Jake? Because I have.
Sadly, I've not seen it. It wasn't playing anywhere near here, and I just didn't get a chance to finally see it.
Okay, I have seen it, and this was my number 10 until I saw Girl Walk All Day. And I feel really bad. I mean, just hearing you say it now, I feel so bad to have left Cloud Atlas off my list and to have movies like Skyfall and The Raid Redemption instead. But, I mean, it'll probably be a movie that I return to more and say is better than those other movies in the future, because there is just so much that is so amazing about it. It's this 3-hour movie, and you're never bored. The editing makes it just this quick. I mean, you're moving story to story, all these characters, and you're never really that confused considering how much information is being thrown at you. And then near the end of the movie, when all the stories are hitting their climax, it is just breathtaking.
Yeah, man, there's some grand love stories here. I mean, there are some issues with, you would say, with the 6th story and some of their choices with how they wanted to go with grammatically speaking, but even still, those scenes still are great and add to this. And there's a lot of great work here from Tom Hanks and from Halle Berry, who I normally think is weak, but I think 6 roles of varying degrees, she does some good work and just kind of conveying this love story. And it's a film that you hope would do a lot better than it did, but it bombed at the box office. But I think it's a film that a lot of people will discover in 2013 when it hits home video.
I hope
hopefully. So. Yeah.
All right, Jake, what is your number 7?
My number 7 for the year was Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Was this a movie that either of you were able to see?
I haven't seen it.
I have not seen it, no.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I mean, it's one of those movies that it was released right during the summer, and, I mean, it's an independent release, but it just was not seen by nearly enough people. Starring Steve Carell, it's this remarkably creative movie, and that's what I sort of took away from it, because as I was watching it, the director, she creates such a world. She builds this really, really interesting environment where, the world's coming to an end. This asteroid's about to hit the Earth, and people are just continuing on with their lives. They're reacting in so many different ways. But Steve Carell is this guy that just sort of keeps going. I mean, it doesn't really faze him, and so he starts to seek fulfillment in all these different ways. And it's just, I mean, it's a movie that's sort of, it's trying to make a point more than it is trying to make you laugh. It's trying to get you to think more. And also, there are so many just top-of-the-line comedians that make small appearances in this. Patton Oswalt, Rob Corddry, Julian Jacobs, T.J. Miller, so many different people in like little cameo roles that are so funny in what they do, and it's a really, really sweet movie that really stuck with me.
Yeah, I've really wanted to see this, especially when you name that cast. It's just one that I was never able to, but I'll definitely be checking it out. Has it hit video yet, do you know? Or
yeah, it's on.
It has.
Okay.
It's on home video right now, on Blu-ray and DVD.
Well, I'll have to check it out then. Okay.
Definitely.
My number 7 is Argo, which we've already mentioned. This is just it's a throwback to the old school type of filmmaking. It's just people in rooms talking for a lot of the movie. And it's so impressive how I think about the first half to first 3/4 are primarily a Hollywood satire and a comedy, and then it goes right from that to the last fourth to being just this edge of your seat, escape. And there's so many cliches in it, and yet it doesn't take you out of the movie. Like, it was only afterwards that I'm like, wow, a lot of that stuff in that final chase and that final escape is kind of cliched, but in the moment, you were just on the edge of your seat eating it up. And normally whenever you have these fantastic casts like Argo has, they waste people, but I wouldn't say they waste anyone in this movie. Each person gets plenty of great lines. Bryan Cranston, I'm so sick and tired of seeing him being given film roles and then have nothing to do. I think Contagion comes to mind most recently. And then here, he's actually given a great role that he can sink into. He can handle the drama. He can handle the comedy like he's able to. And this was just a fantastic movie from Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck's one to look out for on the next couple of years. Like, his next project, he's just going to keep getting stronger, I think.
Oh, yeah, because for someone that was so hated from the public, and now he's just completely turned around his public image, good for him, because I would not have thought he had a movie like Argo in him.
No.
Alright, what is your number 6, Justin?
My number 6 film is Joe Wright's Anna Karenina. This film is luscious. It's gorgeous to look at, and it's, did either of you see this?
I haven't been able to.
Unfortunately not, no.
It's a story about a woman who kind of deals with the problems of following her heart. You have Keira Knightley as Anna, and she's kind of cold because she lives this life with this guy who gives her a great life, and they have a family, and she's got a proper place in society, but then she meets this gallivanting cavalry officer who just kind of sweeps her away, and she knows it's wrong, but this is the first time she's felt alive in a long time, but you can see, the weight of her decision slowly crushing her, and just kind of the effect it has. But the more interesting, at the same time, the more interesting plot line of the film is the young cavalry officer, played by Aaron Johnson, was actually wooing another girl. I believe her name in real life is Alicia Vikander. She's someone who is going to be very, very popular coming up, and I just think her role with what is his name? Is Brandon, the actor who plays is played by Brandon Gleeson's son. They have a love story that's just more heartwarming and interesting because they're young and they're loved and they're not kind of bitter from pursuit or kind of the idea of the relationship being wrong. His name is Donald Gleeson. Yeah, Donald Gleeson and Alicia Vikander's relationship is just kind of a heartwarming tale, contrasting to kind of this consuming love that Keira Knightley and Aaron Johnson's characters have as people who want each other, but you can see it's slowly destroying who they are and what they do in a society that's very much about place and status. Knightley does good work, but as I said, she's kind of cold. Aaron Johnson Count Vrosky is cold on purpose, but I think it's a good performance. But the person who really surprised me for this film is Jude Law as Karenin, because it's a role that's not thankless. He's older. He's not as dashing as you would normally associate Jude Law with, but it's a role about someone who is trying to do the right thing in a situation where everywhere he turns, someone is wronging him. And I think it's a film that, much like Cloud Atlas, was not appreciated, but I think it's a film that a lot of people should see.
Okay, and Jake, what is your number 6?
My number 6 for the year was The Avengers, and this is a movie that really needs no introduction, but it's a movie that literally I think everyone on the planet probably saw this movie. But it's a movie that it's remarkable how, with so much hype, so much that this movie has to succeed with every single thing that this movie has to pull off, and it does it. It somehow manages to give each and every character their own time, their own moment to shine. Each and every actor that's bringing that character to life is, doing a job that really, fulfills our hopes. Joss Whedon makes it so funny. This movie could have been a huge success even without that. People still would have loved this movie even without that incredibly sharp script. But that's the thing that sticks the most with this movie on repeat viewings. The thing that makes me chuckle the most, or makes me appreciate this movie more, is just how quick-witted it is, thanks to his script. And the action is done so well. It's just really, it's a dream come true.
Yeah, the Avengers was my number 12. I really felt bad about not putting it on here, because I've seen it 3 or 4 times now, and once you get over the first 20 or 30 minutes, which are kind of choppy, it much like Joss Whedon shows, the first episodes are always kind of rough, and then it builds to a fantastic ending. This is just like that, where the beginning's a little rough, but it's hard not to just be sucked into this movie whenever you have that sweeping one-take shot through the city of everyone fighting.
Yeah, I mean, the Avengers is number 18. It's just impressive that Marvel managed to properly build this story up, but often at the detriment of other films before. But to have it seems so cohesive after having multiple directors tackle films with Thor, Captain America, Hulk, and for Iron Man. It's impressive stuff, and it'll be interesting to see if the Avengers is willing to hold up when the Avengers 2 comes, because I'm just afraid, much like with The Dark Knight Rises to The Dark Knight, such anticipation, because this film is so well loved, could only sink a movie.
Yeah, but the only thing for me, Joss Whedon could have gone off and done, a lot of other projects, but he kept on board for Avengers 2, so I'm really, really, really hoping that he has a reason to be back on board, because, and I really hope that Marvel will just let him do his thing again, because, primarily this feels like a Marvel movie, but it almost just as much feels like a Joss Whedon movie. He's all over this place. Every line of dialogue is hilarious. You can even kind of tell because the direction isn't as great as it would be. I hope he improves between now and then, but yeah, I was very impressed by him for this to be his second movie and to just knock it out of the park like this. Going from one Joss Whedon movie to the other, my number 6 is The Cabin in the Woods, which we've already talked about a little bit, but I'll just say that I am not a horror fan at all. I like the classics like, the original, well, not the original, the John Carpenter Thing, Alien, The Shining. I like those, but besides it, I don't touch the genre. But I don't think you have to be able to enjoy The Cabin in the Woods, because, this is a movie just completely destroying the horror genre, while at the same time showing immense love for it. This is a movie that's, I don't think you have to love horror. There's some jump scares and some things like that, but it's primarily a comedy, and I think it's one of the best movies of the year. I'm sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I think this is a great movie to enter horror on. This is basically got so many things from previous films that if you decide that, maybe I want to take a look at horror, because you'll recognize some stuff from Cabin in the Woods, that you could probably start there. Evil Dead, The Reanimator, there's stuff in there that, you will get out of Cabin in the Woods. So maybe this is a great jumping point off for you to maybe reconsider jumping into horror. That's what I was going to say to you, Jeremy.
Yeah, and I would feel bad if we didn't mention just how great Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins are, basically playing Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard. I'm pretty sure they've even admitted that in an interview. They are terrific.
I'm even weary of mentioning that they're in this film, because I think the surprise of what they're doing in the film is half the fun. And so, but you're right, they do incredible work.
Yeah, I do feel kind of bad. Part of me, the film starts off in a very, you'll know they're there kind of early on, but well, yeah.
The film opens with them just sitting there talking, so it's not too much of a spoiler because that's the first 10 seconds of the film. But I like to send people in this movie absolutely cold, and just the understanding that the movie is called Cabin in the Woods.
Yes, I will end it there, that this is a movie that will definitely surprise you, even if you think you know what you're going to get. I guarantee you won't. That is our 10 through 6. And now we will cut to an interview I did with AJ Meadows, who directed the new horror movie, The Slender Man, and we will be back with our 5 through 1. I'm here with AJ Meadows, the director of the new horror movie, The Slender Man. How you doing, AJ?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So, I talked with you a couple months ago about the movie, but in case people aren't familiar with it, you want to tell them a little bit about the movie?
Yeah, sure. I guess the general gist is that it's based off of the, the internet urban legend of the Slender Man. We just really wanted to make a movie. We wanted to, raise a budget on Kickstarter and then make a movie with that budget. And we knew that the Slender Man would be, popular enough IP that we can, make the movie that we wanted to make. And so, we pretty much just based it off of, the mythos that was created by the internet. While at the same time, kind of doing our own thing. So I think people will like it.
So you say, you took the internet mythos and then kind of added on your own. Is it, mostly the internet, or do you have your own spin on it? Or do you not want to reveal that much? Because
I could talk about it without spoiling anything. Basically, I would say we stuck pretty much 90% to stuff that's already been created. But then at the same time, like I said, we wanted to do something different. So I think the general gist of who our antagonist is, I think it is what separates it from stuff that we've seen before from the Slender Man. So I think it's different enough. I think that's pretty much as I can say. I think it's different enough to where people know where I'm coming from. When they watch the movie, from what I'm saying right now, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, now I see what he's talking about."
And the way this movie is made, it's found footage. So, was it always going to be found footage, or was that something that you just thought it'd probably be the easiest way to do it?
Yeah, that pretty much came out of a lack of any kind of major budget, Found footage is just something that's easier resource-wise to pull off. But what we did was, we still wanted it to feel cinematic, so it kind of, it skews a little bit away from the general, found footage stuff. There are some very cinematic things that happen. There's a music cue at one point. Or I guess I can call it music. It's more of a sound. So we try to heighten things a little bit, like a movie would, in a traditional sense, while still sticking with found footage. I think it's definitely different from because I know that for the most part, a lot of the video media that comes out with Slender Man stuff, it tends to be found footage style. So we pretty much wanted to do the best version of that could possibly be done, in our opinion. So that's why we pretty much chose to do that.
I don't know if you've seen the movie End of Watch. Were you able to see that?
I have not. That's actually on my list of movies to watch as soon as possible.
I bring that up because
it was on my radar when I first saw the trailer, but recently it's actually popped up on a lot of people's top 10 lists of the year, and so I'm really excited to see it. Definitely with the from what I understand, it's a mixture between found footage and traditional.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because it sounded a lot like how you were doing it, where they didn't really make a point of differentiating between the two. It was just this is this and this is that. It's more fluid. This is a very popular internet sensation. Did you try and talk to the community? Did you involve them, or was it mostly just you're telling them, hey, there's a movie coming out? Or did you try and talk to anyone and say, what are your favorite things about the Slender Man? What would you like to see in a Slender Man movie? Or was it more just, we know they'll enjoy it, we're going to make it for them?
Right. It wasn't. We didn't really ask, but we did do a lot of research. So we lurked on the forums. We kind of found people's favorite aspects of the Slender Man. There are a few stories where the Slender Man gets killed, and I kind of picked up on a lot of people saying no, that's against canon. You can't do that. You can't kill the Slender Man. We pretty much did as much research you could possibly do in the span of 3 weeks up to the movie, and we had been fans before that. But I personally just really wanted to dig into what we should and shouldn't do in terms of how the Slender Man interacts with the world, I guess. So I feel like we came up with something that the fans would like without, I guess, directly like doing like a poll or asking them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty loyal though.
And it's interesting because this sounds like I don't know all that much about it, but it sounds like this isn't really that much of a self-aware type horror film, is it? It isn't like the type of found footage where you're overemphasizing this is found footage, is it?
No, I would say it cuts between itself. So, like I said earlier, it kind of feels more movie-ish than it does like a movie like, I guess, like the Blair Witch Project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It cuts between itself. It moves at a pretty rapid pace, like a traditional movie would. I mean, there are a few long shots that kind of play out, when like a conversation's like really getting to go, and there are like some emotions happening. But in general, yeah, it's just kind of found footage style in terms of how it's shot. But in terms of pretty much like everything else, audio, editing, it feels much more like a traditional movie in that sense.
And you might not even have an answer for this, but I always hear whenever someone's making a horror movie, there might be something scary or something crazy that happened while you're making it. Did you guys have any situations while you're making a horror movie that like was something crazy or horrific in itself?
Not really me personally, but our producer Tim claimed that basically every night after we would like do a shoot, he would have a nightmare about the Slender Man. And so he kept getting progressively more and more freaked out. That was always fun, especially like reading the script and then showing him footage that we shot, and then just being out in the woods in the middle of the night, 3, 4 a.m. out in the middle of nowhere shooting stuff. I think we all kind of got a little creeped out at some parts, especially when the crew was a lot smaller and we're just out there in the woods, and we could see our breath, and all we have is a flashlight, and you hear like wolves howling in the distance. But in terms of like actual like really scary stuff happening, I wouldn't say nothing like that. But yeah, it was definitely a creepy experience. And I personally was like, oh, it's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna get creeped out shooting this, whatever. But yeah, like after you're shooting 8 or 9 hours and you're trying to scare the actors and you're out in the middle of the woods and you can see them in the distance and you realize, you know what, I'm the only person around for probably about 1.5 miles in these woods. This is kind of creepy. Yeah, then it kind of gets to you. But.
And I always wonder, whenever you're putting together a horror movie, do you wonder, is this scary because, like, is the movie scaring yourself whenever you're editing and watching it, or are you worried, that you're what's going to happen? How do you know this is going to scare someone when you know what's going to happen?
The second one, right there. The second one is my answer. I got so used to when everything happens, it's not scary to me at all. I sit there and I watch it, and I don't know if it's scary. It wasn't until... Because I spent a good couple months editing this movie just by myself. So I pretty much knew when everything was going to happen. It wasn't until... I guess the past couple weeks when I started showing it to some of the cast and the crew and kind of getting their second opinions. My wife, who really hadn't seen really anything that I had shot, seeing them react to it was pretty much how I discovered, okay, that part was actually scary, and I need to do this to make it scarier, or, okay, they just kind of yawned through that part, maybe I should do something different or try to ditch the scare altogether. So in terms of creepiness, yeah, to me, it's just the same thing. It's like a movie. It's very black and white for me. It's like, this is either right or it's wrong in terms of how it works. But watching other people react to it is probably the only way that I now can separate myself, from it just being a movie. So.
And I think that was all that I had for the Slender Man. But since this is going to be in the middle of our top 10 films episode, are there any horror movies or just movies in general this year that you really loved?
This year was kind of a letdown for horror movies. There wasn't really anything good on that end.
I think there was probably Cabin in the Woods, and then that was the main.
But even still, that kind of skirts, the edge of actually...
Yeah, comedy and...
that was a great film, and I love that to death, for sure. That would definitely be in my top 10 anyway, horror film or not. But I guess I'm kind of looking forward to Mama, just to see if that is actually creepy or not. We'll see. It's getting kind of mixed reviews, so I don't know about that. But favorite movies, top movies of the year, definitely Django is up there for me. I'm a huge Tarantino fan anyway, but that movie just kind of... I feel like Tarantino's is getting more and more mainstream with his movies, which is mostly a good thing, I think. I don't know. I just feel much better about being like really into a Tarantino movie and showing it to like my family, who are like average movie joes, and they can get into it now too. I mean, if I showed them like Reservoir Dogs or something like that, they'd probably be yawning. But anyway, so Django Unchained. I'm trying to think of the other movies they really fell in love with. Moonrise Kingdom was really up there for me. Those are probably my top few. I still haven't seen Zero Dark 30, which I really want to. Yeah, I mean, Paranorman is probably one of my favorite movies of the year as well. So I'd say those are probably my top few. All
right, and so the Slender Man should be coming out soon. Where will people be able to see the movie when it comes out? Because it's going to be online for free. I don't know if we've said that yet. You're putting it online for people to see, right?
Correct, yeah. We just felt like if we did make a movie, even, we did ask for money to make it, which is kind of like a no-no in the Slender Man community, we found out. But, we wanted to put it online for free. So it's going to be available on YouTube to watch as soon as it's ready to be put out. It'll just be ready for anyone to stream. Our Kickstarter backers are going to get, some sort of high-quality download version, maybe some physical media. But the release, probably in the coming weeks here, and when it does come out, you'll be able to find it at www.officialslendermanmovie.com.
All right, and there is a Facebook page, right, for the Slender Man movie. Where can people find that? What is that?
If just in the search bar on Facebook, just type in the Slender Man movie, and you'll see it.
All right. Is there anywhere people can find you online, AJ?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. It's just at AJ Meadows, and that's pretty much it, really. I guess I'm a Twitter guy mostly. So.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me today to talk about the Slender Man and your favorite movies. Good luck with the release of the Slender Man.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Welcome back. We'll start off with our number fives. Justin, what is your number five?
Well, with my number five film, I see Jake's controversy with the most controversial film of the year, Rick Alverson's The Comedy. This was on video on demand. Either you managed to catch up with this film?
I have not, but I really want to see this movie.
I've heard a little bit about it, but I've not had a chance to see it, though, no.
Yeah, this is a film people hate. Most people just hate. It's not a pretty film. It's about this man, played by Tim Heidecker, who just kind of a rich, snobby douche who lives on a boat, and he just is kind of, there's this disaffected life going around, indifferent to other people and their feelings, and that's what most people are seeing. It's very misogynistic. It's very, unpolitically correct. But, as I saw it, I didn't see all of that. As I watched the film, I saw a movie about a man who is lost, and he is looking for something. I mean, the movie starts, and he's sitting in the hospital room with his dying father, and the father's very rich, and he's going to get this inheritance, but all he can do is berate the guy who's taking care of his father. And I see that more as someone who is looking for life, life experience. He's been so sheltered, and so put away from the rest of the world, that all he can do is lash out because he doesn't understand the world around him. But, he tries. He tries to get small jobs, but when things become difficult, he tends to mock them. And I just think it's a brilliant film about someone who wants to fit in but can't, so they just lash out. And it's a film that, I wrote it out for on the website so you can get a more clear thoughts in my review, but this is just a film about someone who wants to be part of a world that he doesn't understand, and a world that doesn't understand him. And, yeah.
Alright, so Jake, what is your number five?
My number five for the year was Liam Neeson in The Grey, and this was a movie that was released back in about this time last year, and that's actually kind of almost sad because I don't think anybody at that studio or even Joe Carnahan saw the very small but very very vibrant response that it got from critics. And from a lot of people like me that just really, really love this movie. I feel like if it had been released here maybe in the past month, it really could have had some Oscar steam behind it. But, I went back and rewatched this movie, actually this past weekend, and everything about this movie, nearly everything, just kind of sticks out for me. Liam Neeson's performance is so strong. He's, as this man, Otway, trying to lead this group of survivors to safety, even after the things that he's been through and the moral low points that he's hit at the very beginning of the movie, seeing him fight for these other men's lives is just so tragic. But at the same time, it's just it's depressing, it's tragic, but at the same time, it's so beautifully well done. And at the same time, the cinematography is just beautiful, really beautiful stuff. It almost plays out like a horror movie, seeing these men fight against these wolves in the Alaskan wilderness. But it's a movie I've recommended to so many people, but it's a movie that gets a lot of backlash from people because they're expecting a really straightforward action movie or, traditional Liam Neeson fare from what he's given us in the past couple of years with movies like Taken. But it's a much, much different beast. It's a movie just about a man trying to cope with life and trying to cope with these other men's lives and sort of have them rally behind him and survive. But I love it.
Yeah, I actually saw this because I saw that you loved it so much, and I completely agree. It just barely missed my top 10 list. I was mostly surprised. Joe Carnahan's basically been a director whose films are, kind of violent, fun movies, and this does not really have any fun or any laughs in it. And there's so many moments that just kind of just depress you and shake you. There's one moment in particular, I won't get into spoilers, I'll just say that it involves a little girl's hair that is... It's one of the most affecting moments I've seen in a film this year. I'm really, really, really impressed with The Grey. Have you seen this, Justin?
Yeah, I wrote something up for Geek Binge, and this was my number 14 film of the year. It's really impressive what Carnahan managed to do. It's a small film, it's a film about a guy who's at his end, who finds himself in a situation where he has to pull himself together and assume the role to save these people from, the wilderness that initially his job is to protect them from. But when you put him right into it, he can only do so much but to empower them to do that. This is a really great film and something I was looking forward to for a while. The reviews, the first buzz about this film came out of a Butt-Numb-a-thon last year around early December when the people were saying, critics who were there were saying this is not the film that is advertised. This is something much more. And I can totally agree. It has got a slight re-release in some of the larger areas. I know it played a little bit a couple weeks ago in Philly, but yeah, it's a shame that this film is going to get overlooked because Liam Neeson does some great work as Otway in this film.
And, Jeremy, you had mentioned, the sequence with the girl's hair, without getting into spoilers. There's a scene directly after that in a river,
Yes.
As descriptive as I can get, but that was the scene that brought me to tears as I was watching it most recently. It is gut-wrenching, to say the least, in every single way imaginable. But yeah, it's tragic but beautiful.
My number 5 is a film that was originally going to star Liam Neeson, and it is Steven Spielberg's Lincoln. I haven't been as hard on Spielberg's films, of the 2000s as a lot of people have. I love Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, War of the Worlds, even the third act. But recently he's kind of taken a little bit of a beating, so it's so interesting to see him come back with Lincoln, which from the trailers looked like a very Oscar-baity movie, but it is the exact opposite of that. In fact, besides it looking like a Spielberg movie, it isn't even particularly directed like one. You don't get a lot of the Spielberg face where it zooms in. You don't get... it's obviously a very talented director, but Spielberg kind of steps back and lets this be about Lincoln. And as Lincoln, Daniel Day-Lewis is he's tied with Joaquin Phoenix for the best male performance of the year. I mean, it was such a good performance that I was almost thinking, this is Tommy Lee Jones talking with Abraham Lincoln. This is Joseph Gordon-Levitt talking with Abraham Lincoln. He's just so quiet, which coming from his last performance as Daniel Plainview, where he was so loud and shouty, that he just dials it down here, and he's this quiet man who tells all these weird, dark jokes, and then all the scenes, for a lot of the movie, he's not even in it, and it's just focusing on, all the political arguing, how they bought votes. Tommy Lee Jones gives one of his best performances of his career. He's so drab and dull recently, but he is so lively and hilarious in this movie. And all the ensemble, all the music by John Williams is fantastic. The cinematography by Janusz Kaminski is great. And I was very, very, very impressed with Lincoln.
I feel kind of bad, actually, because this is one of my few blind spots, and I, unlike so many people, was a big Warhorse fan.
I was too. I loved Warhorse.
Yeah, a lot of people mocked me for it being so baity, but I mean, I'm a big Spielberg fan, and it's a shame that I haven't gotten myself around to see this yet, but I am looking forward to maybe now that I have a few days to probably catch up with Lincoln.
What is your number 4?
My number 4 film is Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. This film is so odd and incredible that, driven by the performances by both Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman, it's just a film that makes you try to understand it, but you're not entirely sure. But just sit there and appreciate it, Maybe, is it Scientology, is it not, doesn't matter. It's the story of this man who is lost and the man who thinks he can fix him. I know this is coming up on your list too, Jeremy, so I'll chime in a little bit.
This has jumped around on my top 10 list more than any movie. It was originally number 10, and then it was number 9, briefly it was number 1, and then sometimes it wasn't even on the list, but ultimately listening to all these people add it on the top 10 list, just listening to them discuss it and talk about it, I was reminded once again just how amazing it is to just watch this movie. Just the experience of watching this movie is unlike any other, because you're just transfixed, because like you said, just how odd this movie is, how the Johnny Greenwood score, how a lot of this movie is just Joaquin Phoenix bashing his head against the wall and just punching people, and yet it's at the same time so quiet and so personal and so hypnotic. I love Paul Thomas Anderson, and this is another classic from him.
I haven't seen Lincoln, but I still marvel now at the physical changes that Joaquin Phoenix goes through, the way he walks, the way he carries himself. It's just so unique to this character of this man, Freddy, who just seems to be operating on a completely different frequency than anyone you've ever seen. And the look of this film is incredible, too. I know Thomas went with a new cinematographer, one that has frequently worked with Francis Ford Coppola, but this is a great look of the 1950s and 60s, and it's a shame there's no places in the Philadelphia area that have 70mm film that you can display, because I can imagine just how grand it looks. Thinking just to the scene where he wakes up on that mast on the ship, I can imagine how glorious that must have looked on the 70mm print. I did manage to see it in film, and it just, seeing the grain just is something that, you have to start to appreciate now, because it's going to disappear. I just think it's glorious, and as much love as Joaquin Phoenix gets for Freddy, Philip Seymour Hoffman is doing amazing work here as someone who has to be confident exterior in his own abilities in the exterior, but interior is just as conflicted and lost as Joaquin Phoenix's character Freddy.
Yes, all of that and more. So, Jake, what is your number 4?
Okay, My number 4 for the year was it was The Dark Knight Rises, and obviously this is sort of a pick that's going to garner just a little bit of controversy, but you know, The Dark Knight's my favorite movie just of all time. That's a movie that meant so much to me. You know, growing up and seeing that follow-up to that finally hit the screen was just such a huge moment, you know. And I'm one of the people that's not going to say the movie's perfect or whatever. I mean, I think there are, you know, noticeable flaws in the first hour of that movie, or just at different spots during the movie, just tiny editing errors, or just small script tweaks that really should have been made before the movie hit the screen. But it was almost as if Nolan was just taking on something that was too big, almost. But it's a movie that comes together for the most part really, really well. Tom Hardy's performance, Christian Bale's performance, Michael Caine, they all do really, really terrific stuff. But yeah, I was mostly in love with the movie.
The first time I saw it, I was kind of disappointed, and then I saw it again, and I pretty much loved it. And then I saw it again after that, and I kind of landed on, I like it, but it has a lot of problems. Are we pro or anti-Bane voice? Because I was originally pro, but the more I've seen it, it just kind of comes off as a little bit goofy.
I'm pro, but then one day I was out with some friends and we were talking about it, and I described it to someone who hadn't seen the film as kind of a drunk Count Chocula, and it kind of ruined it for me a little bit. I mean, this is a film that has a lot of good stuff in it. I mean, Nolan obviously is a master director. It's just there's so many plot points that just don't make any sense that, you know, when you revisit it, and as I have done recently, it just doesn't make any sense. And it's a film that will endure, but the problem is what works so much about The Dark Knight can't work here, because we, as an audience, have shifted views. I mean, the politics of The Dark Knight are so great because they were of the times, but those same politics seem to be here in play so many years later, and it's just, we're not in the same place anymore, so it just kind of feels out of place for me.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is a lot of the moments feel very comic booky, like, you know, Joseph Gordon-Levitt keeps on getting called Hothead, and, you know, they have the, oh, you're in for a show tonight, and a lot of the him in the well and the Bane, a lot of that is very comic booky, and that isn't necessarily a problem, but I feel that, and even Batman Begins has a lot of comic booky stuff in it, so I feel that if this had somehow come after Batman Begins, it would probably have felt more natural. It still would have needed a lot of editing work, but I feel the problem was you had a comic booky movie with Batman Begins, you had something completely different than The Dark Knight, and then all of a sudden you kind of have a little, you know, they're butting heads where you have the same kind of, this is a serious movie, this is a, you know, crime drama that you had with The Dark Knight, and then there's some very silly comic booky stuff in it. So I ultimately come down the side of liking it, but I think that maybe it just should have kind of stuck with one side more than the other.
Yeah, I mean, I told so many friends before film come out to watch out, because, I mean, when you have a film that's maybe the most anticipated film since, you know, I don't know, The Phantom Menace, it's not going to hold up.
Yeah.
And that it's just, there's no way this film could have lived up to the hype that it was getting, and it's a film that I think in a few years people will forgive kind of some of the silly parts and enjoy, especially the great but short work by Michael Caine, and I think Anne Hathaway is maybe the best work she in the film. But I mean, it's something that's people are going to need some time from, especially with the Avengers still looking so shiny.
I think one of my best viewings of the film was the most recent one, right after Christmas, where I was I'd left the hype a little bit. I was able to just sort of take my mind off of all the craziness around it and just sort of watch it as a movie, and I think that's when I liked it the most, probably.
Talking about watching it as a movie, my number 4 is a movie that tells you pretty much up front that it's a movie, and it's Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. And what I mean by that is, I forget who said this. I saw this online the other day. They said that, Tarantino always, he never tries to make you think you're not watching a movie. I think that was actually Film Crit Hulk who wrote that. And he said that's why Tarantino works so well. At the start of this movie, you have those fantastic credits, you have the, catchy music, the original Django theme, and he just has all these little touches, like Franco Nero is in this movie, and in the credits, he is credited as, and with the friendly participation of, Franco Nero. And just right then, it doesn't take you out of the movie, because with Quentin Tarantino, you are getting a movie. Like more than any other, Tarantino makes movies for you to watch and for you to enjoy. And if you can't tell from my accent, I live in the South. I live in specifically Mississippi, where a lot of this movie takes place. So I was very interested to see how this movie would play in the theater, because I was interested to see, would we get any people who maybe wouldn't be liking what happens to people in this movie? And no, I was very pleasantly surprised that the entire theater was just eating this movie up, from the opening scene of Christoph Waltz, getting Django and on. They were just with this movie for the entire 3 hours. This is another one where I read the script before I saw the movie, and a lot of it's different, and I feel that a lot of it was cut out for good, but I feel you can also tell this is very, very rushed. I think the editing is kind of a weak point of the movie. Now, you've both seen Django Unchained too, right?
Yeah, Django's my number 3 film, and it's a film that, for the first time, you can see that Tarantino is missing his long-time editor. What was
Sally Mickey?
Yes, Sally Mickey, and that this is a film that I think he just finished editing in December, because I remember it played up at the Directors Guild in December, with kind of being the first buzz from the film. And it's a film that you can see is much longer, and there seems to be a lot of open points. There's characters and actors who taking cameos that are just kind of small to the point that you had to think there was more there, but it got cut down. But yeah, this is just what Tarantino does. This is his spaghetti western that's Southerner or whatever he's calling it, and it's just exuberant and it's fun and it's horrifying. All the violence that happens towards the people who are enslaving people is comical, and there's squibs are massive, and there's just blood everywhere. And then when you see the horrors of slavery, from the opening shot, when the chain comes off Django's thing, you see how hollow and weak their ankles are because they have to walk miles and miles in these chains. You're terrified. And I think it's a film that is important because it's about a time period that is essential to America, and is this a stylized version of it? Yes, but maybe not much of this is not that far off.
Yeah, and you've seen this too, right, Jake?
No, sadly not. I've not had a chance to watch it yet.
Well, once you do, you'll likely love it, and probably feel bad that it wasn't on your top 10 list. But since he's just given us his number 3, what is your number 3?
My number 3 for the year was Skyfall, which obviously we've already talked about just a little bit, but I was so impressed with how this movie all came together. I couldn't ignore it. Much farther below my top 5, but it ended up actually quite high once I started ranking a lot of the efforts of the year.
And since I've already given my number 3 as The Master, you want to go ahead and give us your number 2, Justin?
My number 2 is Catherine Bigelow's Zero Dark 30. The tale of the search for Osama bin Laden is an important part of what the last 10 years was in America. Jessica Chastain, I think, in my opinion, has won the Best Actress in her portrayal of Maya, this woman who is consumed with finding this man who's haunted America for so long. It's an incredible film. Bigelow apparently was filming another film about the search for Bin Laden when Bin Laden was killed, and quickly just got this film together, and it just feels so detailed and impressive. I mean, with that understanding that she managed to throw this film together, and it's just impressive with the amount of access she was given, and then just the great character work out of some people like Jason Clarke. You've got some good work from Kyle Chandler. It's just an important film. I know this is a film that just expanded from 5 to 60 theaters last week, and so I can't imagine either of you have managed to catch up with Zero Dark 30.
No.
Unfortunately not, no.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a film that needs to be seen, and even though you know what's going to happen, that 35-minute raid on the compound in Abbottabad is heart-pounding. I mean, to the point that the movie theater I saw in was packed on a Sunday morning. People were shushing other people during the raid like they thought Bin Laden would be tipped off by, people talking. It's just so impressive and leaves you with the poignant question, now that we've found the man who's haunted us, where does America go now, knowing all the things we have to do to find him? I mean, there is a torture aspect to this film, but it's not pro-torture, it's not anti-torture, it's torture was what was happening at the time. Did it aid us? Yes. Could we have done it without it? Maybe, but during the early 2000s, we were torturing people, and this is what happened. This is the reality of the situation. You need to accept that, and you can cast your opinion on how much information the characters get from that, but I mean, it's not about that. I mean, last night, Glow accepted an award, and she said, depiction is not affirmation. I mean, if you show torture, it's not pro-torture. It's just what it was. And I think that's important to learn. And I just think this is a magnificent film and is the best American film of 2012. Which is kind of hinting.
I think it's expanding nationwide this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it should. On Friday, it should be out for everyone. So,
yeah. So hopefully I can catch it this weekend.
Yeah.
And what is your number 2, Jake?
My number 2 for the year, and I'm probably going to be executed by the internet and everyone else if I don't pronounce this correctly since it's on my number 2, but is Les Miserables. And this was a movie that I caught right at the very end of 2012, but it's a movie that immediately stuck out in my mind and almost came very close to taking the number 1 spot for me. So many incredibly talented people all working together to make this a reality. You've got Hugh Jackman, Anne Hathaway, Russell Crowe, who it's sort of dividing some people's opinions based on his singing voice and his singing talent. But, Amanda Seyfried, Eddie Redmayne, so many people that are so talented working together. And, it's one of those movies where you really have to enjoy musicals. You really have to enjoy singing in order to enjoy it. And fortunately I do, because this movie is literally 99% singing. People very close to the camera, very raw, very authentic singing. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I think Tom Hooper made a brilliant decision in shooting the film live and not going back into post and re-recording these songs, because the songs themselves and the singing, it feels like a natural extension of dialogue. It doesn't feel like, oh, okay, now here comes the song. It's just a matter of, this is how I'm expressing this, and it's just, I'm expressing this exposition and this dialogue in a really beautiful way.
All right, and I feel kind of bad since both of your number 2s are these really, dark and brooding movies, and my number 2 is the exact opposite, and it's Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom. I have been a very big Wes Anderson fan. Recently, I haven't been as wild about his work. Didn't like Life Aquatic or Darjeeling that much, but Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of my favorite animated films, period. And this premiered at Cannes, and the word out of it was good, but it was kind of unanimous. This is a slighter movie for Wes Anderson. And now having seen that, I very much disagree. First off, all of his films are kind of slight to begin with. He's never really reached for any big themes or, done anything major. But I feel here, he's having, this is a movie where two kids run away and fall in love, and he's reaching for, he has a movie about childhood, love, and these two kids who are acting like adults and who don't realize how ridiculous what they're doing is. But he very purposely makes the kids have a better relationship than one of the parents, who are the parents of the missing girl. And the parents of that girl are Bill Murray and Frances McDormand, and they're both fantastic. And all the cast is fantastic. Wes Anderson got two newcomers, Jared Gilman and Cara Haywood, to play the boy and girl, and they're both terrific. And it's so impressive that Wes Anderson can not only get two good performances out of newcomers, but to have them match up his style perfectly. There are many kids in this movie, and all of them are saying Wes Anderson dialogue as well as the adults are. And the adults, Bruce Willis, is fantastic in this movie. Like, he's not stiff. He's funny. He's in a Wes Anderson movie. Edward Norton, Tilda Swinton, Harvey Keitel, all these people. This was not playing near me, and I was very sad, but I was able to see this in a trip to Chicago, and that ended up being the highlight of my trip, because I enjoyed every single second of this. This is just, it's just a happy movie. I don't know how you can't end this movie without a smile on your face. Have either one of you guys seen Moonrise Kingdom?
No, I've not had a chance to see it yet, unfortunately. I keep meaning to rent that and finally see it.
I totally agree with you, Jeremy. In fact, Moonrise Kingdom is my number 12 film, and I think it's a really strong year for Best Supporting Actor. So Bruce Willis will be locked out, but I think he does some great work here as kind of this cop who is always trying to do the right thing, even though he may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer. And it's just, Anderson is having fun. And it's a great kind of bounce back from a lesser film, Darjeeling Limited. But I just think, I too also love Fantastic Four. I just think this film is great fun with charming characters. I mean, these two kids will be joining the canon of so many other great Wes Anderson characters, and I really enjoyed the film.
Alright, and now it is time for our number one picks. So, Justin, what is your number one movie of 2012?
My number one is going to be a little controversial because it's kind of a cheat. It's a film I saw at the Philadelphia Film Festival that is not actually opening wide till 2013, but it played at a con, and it played in Europe, and it played some places in America 2012. It's Oliver Assayas's Something in the Air. This film just took me. It's a story of 4 French students in 1971 during some of the student riots who, while they're protesting, they possibly kill someone. And so for the summer, they end up running off in different directions all across Europe. And they just find themselves. I mean, this is maybe the best coming-of-age story I've ever seen. And it stars my international Rookie of the Year, Lola Couton, as the girlfriend of the main character, Giles, who's goes to Germany and Italy and all over, and it's got so much beauty and heart, and these kids are trying so hard to be kids, but also are forced to grow up because of the situation they had to deal with. And I think it's a lot of film a lot of people are going to connect with when it comes out with this year. And I just think it's something a lot of people need to see. So my best film of 2012 is Oliver Assayas's Something in the Air.
Me and Jake share a number one, so Jake, would you like to tell the people what it is?
Yeah, sure. My number one of the year, as well as Jeremy's, was Rian Johnson's Looper.
I'll say a little bit first. This was... have you seen his 2 films before this, Jake?
I've seen bits and pieces of Brick, but Brothers Bloom is one of my favorite movies, just period, ever. I saw Brick first, and I loved it, and then I saw Brothers Bloom, and it didn't hit me that well the first time, but then
A couple months later, I found myself really wanting to rewatch the movie, and when I did, I completely agree with you. It is one of my favorite movies. And then Looper goes back to his kind of Brick style film, where it's a very serious movie. It has plenty of funny moments, but it is, first and foremost a drama. And I love what he's able to do here. This is only his third movie, and yet he gave us some of the best action scenes of the year. And all the performances, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is able to not only be Bruce Willis, but to also do a great job of acting. Bruce Willis matches him doing what I'd say is probably the best work of his career, maybe tied with Pulp Fiction and Die Hard. And I'm so impressed by this movie because it is a time travel movie, but if you were going to list what this movie is about, time travel might be a couple, things down the list. I love the second half of this movie. I love where it goes. It's so unexpected and does something so unique for a movie like this. And I'm just very excited for where Rian Johnson's going to go. So that's why it's my number one.
Yeah, it's a movie, I repeat your sort of sentiments right there about it. It's a movie that's less about time travel, and it's totally a drama. It's a drama about real choices and consequences, and having to face your actions in a really impressive, unique way. But yeah, the second half of the movie really took me off guard the first time I saw it too. But the first half is still is the part that stands out the most to me. It's probably my favorite section of the movie, sort of establishing the world, and there's that diner sequence where you're building these rules of time travel, and you're going over that. And it's really just the way that Rian Johnson approaches time travel is so impressive to me. He makes it his own. He creates his own world. He creates his own rules of time travel, and he does everything in his own signature way. And the thing that makes it the best movie of the year for me is really it's that movie that I'm going to come back to, or that I'm going to remember 2012 as the year of Looper.
You've seen this too, right, Justin?
Yeah, Looper is number 16 on my list. This is some great time travel work here. This is maybe the best time travel film I've seen since Time Crimes, and I just think, some of the elements here that really work are kind of the smaller stuff. Like there's an amazing sequence where what is his name? What is it? What's the name of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's friend?
Paul Dano.
Paul Dano has to close his loop, and they just start the way they do it is to entice the older Paul Dano to come in is incredible, and the way they finally get to him is something that I would think is really kind of shocking and impressive, and shows that Rian Johnson has advanced as a filmmaker. I absolutely adore the movie Brick, and so I think this is another great entry from him, and I think he has a really strong future. For me, when the film gets to the third act and you're at the farmhouse, it kind of slows down a bit, and I think although there's good stuff being done there, it doesn't keep up with the pace of the first film, and confusing. And the ending, I think for me, left something really dire, but it's still a film I have a lot of appreciation for, as it is my number 16 film of the year.
All right, well, we're going to start wrapping things up. Do you have any honorable mentions? We'll just go around. Justin, what are some of your honorable mentions?
I actually do a top 25, so I'll just go through them real quick. For 25 through 21, I just kind of put 5 films in there in no order. So you got Chronicle, Paranorman, the LCD Sound System documentary Shut Up and Play the Hits, a French film called Goodbye Love, and the film Loneliest Planet. I imagine you two have seen Chronicle or maybe Paranorman?
I've seen Chronicle and really enjoyed it.
Jake, did you see Chronicle or Paranorman?
Yes, I saw Chronicle. It was really interesting. I don't think it stuck out to me as much as it did for a lot of other people, but I definitely appreciated the originality going on. Sadly, I've not seen Paranorman, though.
Okay, and then my 20 through 11 would be Safety Not Guaranteed, a film that's on Jake's list. Sleepless Night, a film that very much is pure action like The Raid, but I think has a stronger story and has a little more evolved character. So that's why that film is on the list, and The Raid we're not. And then at 18, you have The Avengers. 17, Seven Psychopaths. 16, as I mentioned, Looper. 15, I have Girl Walk All Day from Jake's list, and from Jeremy's list. Number 14, I have The Grave from Jake's list. Holy Motors, a film that has made a lot of critics top 10s and some of them a lot of number 1s. I think it's a film that when you first immediately leave it, it's so confusing that you're going to be kind of turned off on about it. But when you start thinking about it and try to understand what it's about, I think it's a really interesting film. And the performance by the main actor, Denis Lavon, I believe his name is, maybe the best performance of the year. I mean, better than Javier in Skyfall, better than Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln, and better than Joaquin Phoenix in Thing. It's just he does so much with this character. I mean, he's 9 different characters in this one movie, all of them so different. I mean, it's a role that will never be recognized, but I think it's really great stuff. Number 12, as I mentioned, is Moonrise Kingdom, and number 11 film will be Life of Pi, a film I know some people do not like, but I think powered by Irfan Khan's performance as Adult Pi is amazing. I mean, his work brought me to tears. I just thought it was an incredible film. So that's my 25.
Jake, do you have any honorable mentions real quick?
Yeah, actually. Cabin in the Woods was one that I really hated. Didn't make it into my top 10 for the year. Lincoln was another one that I really, really liked it, but it just wasn't able to squeeze in there and make that final cut. Those were, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter, is one that actually I know is sort of laughed at by a lot of people, just saying that it's halfway all right. I mean, I know that's sort of maybe a little controversial, but it's a movie I kind of had a little bit of fun with. It's definitely ridiculous, but it's a movie that it takes itself very, very seriously, which I really liked about it. That's probably the most outlandish, awkward, out there pick I could make for the year as far as honorable mentions go.
Okay, and for me, I'm just going to scroll up real quick. I enjoy Jack Reacher a lot, The Grey, Wreck-It Ralph, Pitch Perfect, Pitch Perfect, just back up. Pitch Perfect is a ton of fun. That is going to be remembered as one of the best comedies of the past few years.
Totally agree.
Dread, Wanderlust, another comedy from the start of the year that's going to be remembered a lot. I loved Wanderlust. The Dark Knight Rises, I'd throw on there. The Avengers, I couldn't fit in. And 21 Jump Street, another great comedy. This was a year of a lot of good comedies. So that is my honorable mentions.
I did want to mention a film real quick. There was a film that was on my 2011 list that got its primary release in 2012. Ben Wheatley's Kill List. Did either of you seen it?
No, but I've wanted to. I've heard great things about that.
It was my number 4 of 2011. This movie is a ride straight to hell. It's so terrifying and dark and grisly and befuddling. I think it's an amazing film that a lot of people missed out on, because when it came out, I think they did an early release for a small release in 2000 and in February 2000. It'll be accepted in 2012, but I think it's the film people should catch up with on VOD. Actually, maybe on Netflix by now, but I think it's a really great little film that's a lot of scares. It's good stuff.
All right, and I think that'll wrap us up. We should be back in 2 or 3 weeks. What do you guys want to say? Maybe talking about the Oscar nominations, maybe?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Let's go around and tell everyone where they can find our work and our Twitter. All right, Justin.
My name is Justin Powell once again. You can find me easily enough at Twitter at Mr. Mr. Justin Powell. And I am a writer at Geek Binge, obviously.
Obviously, you can find all my stuff at Geek Binge as well. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jake Wilbanks.
You can find me as well at Geek Binge. If you want to just see links to my work, you can go jeremythesollie.tumblr.com, and my Twitter is at JeremySollie. Thank you for listening to the first episode of the Screen Bites podcast. We'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks, And go to geekbench.com for a ton of cool news and reviews on movies, TVs, and video games. Thanks for joining us.